Hey, what's going on, everybody? I hope you all are doing well. Jamie from the future here to tell you that Jamie from the past will be taking over for episode 3 of What If. It has actually been like 3 or 4 months since I've last seen What If, so I will definitely have to refresh myself, but don't worry, because Jamie from the past has me covered for episode 3. What if Earth's mightiest heroes died? I don't think that's the official title, but that's basically what happened. So yeah, let's let Jamie in the past get right to it. I will see you guys very, very soon, though, in episode 4. All right, so yeah, enjoy. Hey, what's up, you guys? Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to my review of Marvel's What If with episode 3. What if the world lost its mightiest heroes? Now, this one I kind of had some conflicting feelings on. The first time I watched it, I didn't think it was a bad episode, but I didn't necessarily enjoy it. After watching it recently, I enjoyed it a little bit more, but... So if I rated it the first time I watched it, I probably would have given it just like a 5 out of 10 or a 5.5. But this most recent time, I think it's definitely at least 6.5. Not too much of a difference, but I enjoyed it a little bit more after, I don't know, because I guess my initial impression for this episode, with the title being like, what if Earth, lost its mightiest heroes? I'm not even sure if that's what the title initially was, because the impression that I got was that what if the Avengers didn't exist at all, which is a much more interesting premise, admittedly, than what we ended up seeing. Still, not a bad episode, but just I would have loved to see what Fury would have done had none of the Avengers existed, or none of the Avengers reached their full potential as a hero. But yeah, let's jump right into this. So I'm going to give the spoiler warning. Of course, if you have not seen this episode, which you probably have at this point, then please do go watch it and then come back here. Otherwise, you will be spoiled on what's going to happen, not only in this episode, but possibly in some future episodes, since this is kind of a dated review. So this episode actually starts off at the end of Iron Man 1, I believe, where Tony is sitting in the donut, eating a donut, and Fury's talking to Natasha, saying how he needs to start up the Avengers program, and that Tony's going to be one of the people that he recruits. So they go into the donut shop, and they basically giving them a whole spiel, like, hey, you should be an Avenger. You have no choice, so do it. So they basically give him the whole spiel of, you should be an Avenger. We're kind of not going to give you a choice, so you should say yes now. And just as Tony is like, yeah, no thanks, I don't want to be a part of your Boy Scouts club or whatever, Natasha stabs him with what is supposed to be the antidote for like the poisoning that he's getting from the arc reactor. Only that doesn't happen, and Tony kind of falls over, and Natasha's looking at him like, Tony, what's going on? And Tony actually dies. So I was like, huh? What is this? Tony's not dead. He's not dead. And then we do go forward in a time and see Tony was indeed dead. He died that day on the floor in the donut shop. Which set the tone. Definitely set the tone for the episode. So yeah, after that, Natasha is being investigated for the murder of Tony Stark, and they think that she did it maliciously, like on purpose, like it's a homicide and not like a not manslaughter. So as Natasha's getting ready to be sent to New York per SHIELD protocol, Fury approaches her like, listen, I'm pretty sure you didn't do that on purpose. Something's going on here. And he slips her the vial that she used to like give Tony what she thought was the antidote. So she's holding on to it with these handcuffs, and she has her hands behind her back. And she's going into like this big armored truck. But yeah, it's kind of funny that it worked out that way, because it reminded me of Captain America 2. I believe it's Captain America 2. Now I'm like scrambled trying to think about it. But the scene where Steve is sitting in the elevator with all the shield people, which he now knows are part of Hydra. And he's like, okay, anybody want to get off before we get started? No? Okay, boom, boom, boom. And then the fights just start. So that's kind of how Natasha went about it. And it was kind of funny. She's like, hey, I forget what kind of BS she makes up, but she ends it with, hey, can you hold these handcuffs for me? He's like, yeah, of course. Oh, wait, what? And then the fight goes there. And this is legitimately one of my favorite scenes of this episode. Natasha just goes in and just kicks ass at this. And it's close quarters combat. So what's interesting is like the way she's maneuvering herself, or like maneuvering between all these dudes that are in this car, because it's like very confined. And one of my favorite parts is where she's punching this dude, but she doesn't have like a lot of arm room, so she's just going boom, 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 like kind of like a speed bag, pretty much with this dude's face, which is great. So as that's going down, we also have basically like the events of Phase 1, where like everything was happening in relatively the same time. So Thor showing up and Iron Man and the Hulk, I guess, the Incredible Hulk, those movies. But the next hero that we go to is Thor. So Thor is coming to pick up his hammer after being like stripped of his power from Odin, and he's going up there like just taking all the shield guys down pretty easily. And so Coulson is scoping Thor out. He's like, Fury's like, okay, give me some information, Coulson. Like, I need to know who we're dealing with. He's like, wow, he has really beautiful hair, which is pretty funny. But Coulson's basically like fanboying this whole episode. And I love it. He's saying it's like really nice body and like really beautiful hair. Fury's just kind of like, Coulson, what's going on here? So Hawkeye, that would be interesting. So Hawkeye is also there, and it's interesting because, like, I don't know, I just never noticed how much Hawkeye was kind of like Fury's right-hand man, at least until Natasha started getting really close with Fury. But Hawkeye's there, he's like, I'm getting in position, so that way I can take him down if you request it. And so Thor is getting ready to pick up the hammer, and Fury's like, don't do it. I want to see what happens. And Hawkeye's sitting there, and you just see the arrow, you see like, the arrow is unnotched and hits Thor in the chest, and he dies. And I didn't particularly like that Thor died in that way. Like, yes, he was in a weakened state, so I guess. But it's Thor, to think that Thor gets taken down by a freaking arrow from Hawkeye. No disrespect. A little disrespect. But from Hawkeye, I'm like, why you do this? Why you do this to me? But he gets taken out. So they are checking out the autopsy of Thor, and they figure out that he is a being of another world, and he's like 1,000 years old or something close to that. And Coulson, of course, Coulson does this. He like smells Thor for some reason, his rotting body. He's like, wow, even while rotting, he smells like lavender. And then even Fury has to kind of get a whiff in, like, okay. Coulson was fanboying hard in this episode. So after seeing Thor's body, Fury goes to talk to Hawkeye to see what the frick happened. And Hawkeye does not look in the best of shape. Like, he literally is having a mental breakdown in this, like, containment cell. He's just like, I don't know what happened. Like, I didn't shoot. So Fury goes in to try and talk to him, and he just has his head down. He's sitting in the corner, like, kind of balled up. And he's like, Clint, like, what happened? And he doesn't respond. He's like, Clint, come on. So he touches him, and like nothing happens, and he kind of falls over, and he's like, oh God. So they try to get medics in there, and it's just too late. Clint has already been killed. So that's when it becomes weird, because Natasha killing Tony, like, that one, even if she didn't do it on purpose, like, somebody could have switched the antidote or whatever that she was injecting him with. So and then the Hawkeye shooting the arrow thing, I'm like, maybe his finger did slip. I don't know. But to see Hawkeye just die in the containment cell when nobody else had been in there, that's when I was like, something weird is happening here. Officially now. Like, something weird was already happening, but now something weird is happening here. Switching to Natasha on the lam, she goes to talk to Betty Ross, who we haven't seen in a billion freaking years. And she goes to talk to her because she knows that she's been pretty good with evading S.H.I.E.L.D. and she wants her to investigate something, and she doesn't want S.H.I.E.L.D. to know. So she gives her the vial, and she's saying, like, she wants to look at the like particles or like the makeup of it to see like what's in it, like how could things have gone wrong with Tony dying. She also mentions that Tony died, and she's like, what? So I think that's kind of what made Betty want to go through with investigating it. Otherwise, she probably would not have even bothered with Natasha. So they investigate the vial, and they find out that the antidote, or the like formula that was inside it, actually was not it didn't even come out of the needle. Something else was in the needle and had entered Tony's bloodstream pretty much, and that's what killed him. So they're like, there's some like micro something that happened there. That's weird. And I was starting to be like, okay, I think I'm picking up what you're throwing down here. So Ant-Man was starting to come up in my head a little bit there. So then after making that discovery, Natasha gets a call from Fury saying that Clint had died and they don't know why. So then Natasha hangs up the phone, and she's got her like, it's time to get serious now look. And she also has this like really pained look while she's getting the news that Clint had died, which is not something that we get to see very often from Black Widow, and like the first time I've seen it, at least in this like animation style. So I also thought that was pretty cool, but like not cool in a dope kind of way, but like that's they really nailed that emotion kind of cool, I guess, if that makes any sense. Just impressed with the animation pretty much, because it's pretty realistic to how I think Scarlett Johansson probably would have portrayed that. But yeah, she's like, Betty, where's Bruce? We need all hands on deck. I'm not playing with you. And Betty's like, listen, I don't know where he is. And even if I did know, I wouldn't tell you. And you can see that like somebody had some like pizza delivery uniform or something on the desk and probably working or something. And clearly it's not Betty because she's a professor. So she's like, okay, well, whose is that? And she's like, I was probably his students or whatever. So then Natasha's like, okay, time to put the hands on you. Like, I'm done. I'm through playing with you. And Bruce comes out of his closet like, okay, no need for violence. I'm right here. So yeah, then Natasha's kind of escorting Bruce out. Like, we need to get out of here. This isn't right. We need to figure something out. So in the next scene, we transition to Fury, like riding through the desert. And this was at this point in time, like the most present that the Watcher had ever been, where we really get to see a very clear silhouette of him just standing, like watching over them in the desert skyline. So I thought that was really cool. But Fury is kind of going to go see like what's going on with Coulson, because he said there's some kind of anomaly, and it turns out that Loki and Lady Sif and the rest of Asgard came down to Earth like, yo, I heard you killed my brother. Somebody's gotta die. So Fury is trying to say, hey, like, we understand you're upset, but doing something to us is not gonna bring him back. We're trying to find the people that killed your brother and some of our people too, so let's not do this. But I thought it was like a nice little change in Loki's story, at least at that point, to see Loki actually show up somewhere to avenge his brother, because their relationship was really rocky in the beginning. Although, like, further in the MCU, obviously we see more of that. But this is a unique situation where Thor actually died. So to see that kind of determination, I thought was pretty interesting. Cutting back to Natasha and Bruce, they are getting ready to cross this bridge between these two academic buildings. And it, like, pretty perfectly matches up where the I think the most recent Incredible Hulk movie the setting where he gets to fight Abomination, which was so awesome for me. I really love the Incredible Hulk movies. So to see that setting again, I'm like, oh, like that's really sick. So Ross does show up with the military and they're like, we want Bruce, we want Banner. Which, was not gonna end up was not gonna turn out well. And somebody actually fires their gun at him without orders. And so Ross is like, hey, like hold your fire. Like we don't want to hit anybody that we're not meaning to hit, or we don't want to do anything too quickly. So of course Bruce starts turning into the Hulk. So he gets down there and just like starts slinging cars and smashing people. And this was like a pretty visceral, like very vicious Hulk, which is a Hulk we haven't seen in a while, in my opinion, in the MCU. At least as far as like the anger, like real, just blind rage kind of anger, which I think is displayed a little bit better in the Incredible Hulk movies, which is why I really like that they went back to that setting, because I think it helped out, at least in my perception of it. So as that is going on, Fury is talking with Loki, trying to get him to stop, like, hey, you killing us is not going to bring your brother back. And Lady says, like, you're right, Odin probably wouldn't want us to do this. So Loki's like, okay, you have 24 hours to give me the person who killed my brother. If not, I'm gonna, like, kill all of you, pretty much. So, like, okay, well, yeah, sure. So then we cut back to the Hulk. And the Hulk is still tearing things up and just being very violent. And Betty's like, oh my god, Dad, tell them to stop attacking. Tell them to stop. I can make him stop, whatever. And then you see the Hulk is kind of like bubbling up. And he eventually explodes. And that was crazy. Yeah, just the visual aspects of it, the sounds, the reactions. All of it was crazy. That was probably the one of the better deaths as far as being shocking in that episode. Because everybody else, I was like, it's not that I didn't feel anything. I was just like, I don't know. Because the whole episode is about Avengers dying, so you knew what was gonna happen. But if it happens in like a spectacular way, it's gonna be memorable. And that there was no way the Hulk dying wasn't gonna be memorable. So after that, Natasha goes back to work because she's like, we need to figure this out before anybody else dies. So she gets access to a computer where she can get into S.H.I.E.L.D.'s database, but she needs a password. So she calls up Coulson, and Coulson's like username is like, I love Steve or something like that. And then the password is like Steve, which is funny. I'm like, dang, Coulson is like a big Avengers fanboy. That's it's really interesting. But what's even more interesting, which I didn't think about this until after my second watch through, at the end of the episode, you see that Captain America wasn't even brought out of the ice yet. So is he talking about our Steve? Or is he talking about a different hero or person named Steve? Or am I just thinking too deeply about it? It could be any of these options. But interesting. So as Black Widow is able to get into this database, she figures out who the mastermind is behind all these Avenger assassinations. And just as she does that, the mastermind shows up, of course, to silence her. So Black Widow calls Fury and says, it's Hope. Hope is the answer, or something like that. And then she dies. But the way that she goes out is not as crazy as the Hulk, but just the visuals of it. Because you don't see anybody attacking her, but you see her going like, like, it's almost like cartoony. Well, I guess it is a cartoon, but very like American cartoony, where like some invisible force is attacking you. That's literally what was happening. Which solidified my final prediction for who it could have been, which I didn't nail it, but I was in the neighborhood of Ant-Man. So Yeah, so Fury thinks on that, and I'm not sure if he realizes Natasha is dead at that point or not. But he's thinking about it, and he gets into his car and is about to call Captain Marvel with his pager. And just before he does that, like, hope is the answer. Oh, I see. So then he drives down to where Loki kind of has a little base set up on Earth, and he makes a plan with him to catch this mastermind. So one of the final scenes of the episode, we see Fury show up into this graveyard, and he is standing over Hope Pym's grave. And Hank Pym comes out, who is the mastermind. He's like, I can't even believe you would show up to her grave and like stand over her like this. And Fury, surprisingly, which is a little hint, he surprisingly said, like, I'm sure she won't mind since she's dead, or something like that. I'm like, oh, like, Fury, you can be a little savage. So they, small talk quickly ends, and they proceed to fight. And Fury is being so agile and acrobatic. I'm like, why are you not an Avenger? Like, you could be fighting next to Black Widow. And even Hank says this, like, wow, you're a much better fighter than I thought you were. And then we start to see that Fury is like making duplicates of himself and basically performing magic. And that's when, not too long after that, it's revealed it's Loki that's actually fighting him. And so Fury actually comes out of the shadows and is able to arrest Hank for all the crimes and the murders that he's done. And that pretty much wraps up the story with Loki then proceeding to break his promise. And he's like, you know what? I will take over Earth anyway. You humans are very easy to manipulate. So he goes to the United Nations. He's like, yeah, this is mine now. This is mine. And we see the ending scene where Fury is actually called Captain Marvel. So Captain Marvel is there talking with him as he's looking at Cap's shield and presumably the frozen plane that Cap is kind of like frozen in. So yeah, that's the end of the episode. I think if that wasn't so predictable with the deaths, like, I don't know how you would have made that not predictable, but that was probably the part that was dragging me a little bit, was the fact that I knew, like, basically everything was going to happen after the second death, even though I didn't know in what way it was going to happen. But a lot of people actually really enjoyed that, and I think they just enjoyed the events more than like trying to put the pieces together, which is something that I enjoy doing, is putting the pieces together. So the mystery part was what was stringing me along through the episode. But yeah, it was one of the people's favorites, from what I heard. I will say that the ending of this episode is not necessarily something that I need to see continue. Like, I want to see continue, but if I had to pick between all the different endings that we've seen, I don't know if it would be at the top of my list per se. Like, it would be interesting to see like what would happen if Steve got revived, but I can't come up with like what if scenarios for like how they would proceed. And I think that's kind of been my biggest thing with like these end credit scenes, is if I can come up with a story in my head as to like, ooh, it should go like this, and then like this could happen, or maybe this would happen, then I feel like they really served the name What If very well by making me continue with this narrative of like, oh, would these things have happened? What would happen with this? What if this person was involved? Whereas like an episode like this, it didn't really intrigue me as much, didn't engage my imagination. It's one of the factors as to why I didn't like it as much. But thankfully, the episode that happens after this one was a little bit more intriguing to me. Although, funny enough, that was the one that like not a lot of people were feeling. So I don't know. Maybe I'm just against everybody this go around for this particular show. But we will get to that whenever. Yeah, school has been crazy, so please, I apologize for the inconsistencies, but I will try my best to keep things running here. But yeah, thank you guys so much for the support regardless. And if you enjoyed, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe if you're new. And also comment, what did you guys think about this episode and about the episodes that we've seen thus far? And if you put spoilers, make sure to say like spoilers or something at the top, so that way people who may not have seen future episodes, they won't be accidentally spoiled. But yeah, I'd love to know what you guys thought about this, and what do you guys think about What If so far? Do you think they're doing a good job in picking really good scenarios, or do you think that these scenarios don't really deserve a what if and they should go for something a little bit more out there? But yeah, thank you guys once again so much for watching. I hope you all have a nice eating order night, whereas enjoy it. I will see you guys next time. Bye.